So I'm going to teach you the easy way to become a 3bet bluffer. Now, here's the thing. This podcast is coming out during a week where on YouTube, I have a full week of 3bet bluffing hands where we review a few different hands, see my 3bet bluffing strategies in action. Of course, smartpokerstudy.com/YouTube. You can find all those videos. For those of you listening to this podcast episode right now, I'm actually recording it on camera on YouTube as well. So you can go check out the episode on my YouTube channel because I've got a spreadsheet. We're going to be running some math, looking at Flopzilla, looking at a couple hands. I'll do my best to explain everything to the podcast audience right now. But on YouTube, you get the full effect for you. So the easy way to become a 3bet bluffer. First, I want to teach you the 6 aspects to the perfect 3bet bluff. When all of these things are in place, it's mandatory to 3bet bluff. Now, first off, I'm not talking about 3betting for value. We're not talking about pocket aces, kings, things like that, right? We're talking about the ace 5 suited, the pocket 4s, the jack 4 suited, hands like that. So the 6 aspects of the perfect bluff. The first aspect is that you're in position. Position is power. So if you're on the button, on the cutoff, 3bet bluffing somebody, if they're going to call you, they have to think, and they often realize that, man, if I call now, I'm going to be out of position, flop, turn, and river. It's going to make it so much tougher, and it makes it more likely they're going to fold when you're 3betting with position. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect is that you hold an ace, preferably suited and connected, like ace 10 suited gives you that flush, nut flush potential plus straight draw. Ace 5 suited, nut flush potential plus a straight draw as well, right? And the fact that you hold an ace, you block your opponent from having pocket aces, ace king, ace queen, hands that often call or 4bet over your 3bet. Next up, you want to see a small open raise size and a large stack, a large effective stack size. And the reason for this is occasionally you get called after you 3bet bluff. You want that larger stack so that you have more room to maneuver. You don't want your opponent to be committed on the flop, whatever that flop is. Let's look at some extremes. You and your opponent have 1,000 big blind stacks. He opens, you 3bet to 9, he calls. Well, if you account for the blinds, there's 19.5 big blinds in the pot. But your opponent and you both still have 991 chips behind, right? Or big blinds, I should say. There's so much room to maneuver. Nobody's committed. It's so much easier to bluff somebody on the flop when they're not committed. Let's look at a different situation, a different extreme. 1,000 big blinds versus 30 big blinds. Your opponent has 30. He open raised to 3. You 3bet to 9. He calls. Now, there's 19.5 big blinds in the pot, but he only has 21 big blinds. Started with 30, subtract 9, 21. It's basically a stack to pot ratio of just 1, so he's committed any pair, any draw, 2 overcards, backdoor straight plus a backdoor flush draw. You're not getting him to fold, right? So that's why you want that bigger stack. And the smaller bet also, just in general, when people open raise smaller, they're generally weaker. Not always, but quite often, right? Just kind of a general tendency people have. Now, the fourth aspect is that the raise first in percentage in your HUD by position, it's greater than 20%. And the reason for that is the wider their range, the more weaker hands they have, and the more likely they are to fold those weaker hands. So if we take a look at Flopzilla right here, real quick. So let's go with a 20% range. All pocket pairs, most broadways, a lot of suited aces, some suited connectors and stuff, right? This range has 266 combos in it. Let's assume you 3bet to 9, 10 big blinds. How much are they folding? Well, there's a good chance they're going to fold a ton of small to medium pocket pairs. They're possibly going to be folding some suited connectors. If you think about this, you're 3bet bluffing a player who you already know can find a fold. So let's figure out logical hands that they're folding right here. Maybe even king jack suited, king 10, queen 10, probably the offsuit broadways, maybe ace 10 off and worse, maybe even ace 9 suited and worse they're folding. This means maybe they're continuing with 100 combos right here. If they're continuing with 100, that means they started with 266. Continue with 100, they fold 166 combos right here. If they're folding that much, out of 266, that means they're folding 62% of the time. Almost 2 out of every 3bet bluffs that you make against them, they're folding. And that's just at the 20% raise first in range. What if they raise first in a 25% range? That's 338 combos. Now, if they continue with that same 100 combos, they're folding 238 combos. And once again, I'm showing these numbers on the YouTube channel, so go there to watch this video, watch this podcast, smartpokerstudy.com/YouTube. So they're folding 238 out of 338. They're folding 70% of the time. That's awesome. What if you're up against a really loose aggressive player? They open raise in the cutoff 30% of the time. Well, their range is 402 combos here. They only continue with 100, so they're folding 302 combos. That's 75% of the range is folding. That's really good when you're 3-bet bluffing them. So aspect number 5 of the perfect 3-bet bluff is that their raise and then fold percentage, fold to a 3-bet, is 50% or greater. That's a key thing. You just want to see a tendency from past history, past statistics on them, that they're capable of folding, right? We love that. And then let's see here. Number 6, aspect number 6 is fold to flop c-bet is greater than 50%. Now, we want to see that they can fold on the flop because every time you 3-bet bluff, you want them to fold, but sometimes they don't fold. They might call you. You want that additional backup plan, that backup opportunity, that backup tendency of theirs of folding a lot on the flop. That's good for you. They check on the flop. After the flop hits, they check to you. You c-bet bluff, take it down right there. Because if you think about it, you 3-bet bluffed with ace-5 suited, jack-4 suited, pocket 7s, something like that. There's a good chance you're going to miss the flop and not hit anything. And if you hit something, could be really weak, right? It's great to be able to c-bet bluff them and get them off the hand, win that 3-bet pot on the flop. Now, here's the thing. I gave you the 6 aspects to the perfect 3-bet bluff. When to 3-bet bluff? First, if all 6 are in place. And remember, we're not talking about having pocket aces or kings, right? We're talking about having a hand that you want to win the pot with right now. You don't want to see the flop. When all 6 aspects are in place, you're in position, you hold an ace, it's a small raise with a large stack, they raise first and greater than 20% in the position that they're in currently. They raise and then fold a 3-bet greater than 50. They fold on the flops greater than 50%. Yes, it's a mandatory 3-bet bluff. Force yourself to make that bluff. If 5 are in place, it might be a mandatory bluff, especially if number 3 is in place. Whether you're in position or out of position, if that number 3, which was small open raise and a large stack, because you want that post-flop maneuverability. 5 are in place, it's almost a mandatory 3-bet bluff. If 4 or 3 are in place, consider it. Could be a good potential to do it. If 0 or 2 or less aspects are in place, then probably not. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop you from 3-bet bluffing. If you want to turn yourself into a more aggressive player, and all you have is that they fold to 3-bets and they fold to c-bets, that's actually a pretty good reason to 3-bet bluff with just those 2 aspects in place. Now, you might be asking, what size should I 3-bet to get them to fold? Well, that's the key thing. Get them to fold. You are bluffing. You want them to find a fold. So you have to hit their pain threshold. That's just the level of bet size that's going to convince them to fold. That folding is better than calling or better than 4-bet bluffing, if that's what they're considering, right? Hit that pain threshold. Now, you might be wondering, Sky, what is that pain threshold? It's generally, when it comes to 3-betting, somewhere between 9 and 12 big blinds. And I'm telling you, never go below 9 big blinds. I know the old standard for 3-bet bluffing, or just 3-betting in general, is 3 times their bet. If they make it 2, you make it 6. They make it 3, you make it 9. Don't go with that 3x. Minimum 9, but between 9 and 12, you basically want to get your opponent to fold, so hit that pain threshold, the size that you think they can find the fold against. Ask yourself this question quite often, especially if it's hard to pull a 3-bet bluff for 9, 10, 11 big blinds. What size would I 3-bet if I had pocket aces right now? If the answer is 10 or 11 big blinds, then your 3-bet bluff should be 10 or 11 big blinds. You want to send the message that you got the goods, Now, here's the thing. Let's do some small bet math, because a lot of people, they still think that they should be 3-betting 3 times the size. If they open raise for 2, you should make it 6. No. Let's talk about some of that 3-bet math right now. So if somebody has 100, if you both have 100 big blind stacks, fully stacked out right now, they open raise to 2. Let's go a little bit bigger. Let's say you want to make it just 7 big blinds, right? That means you are raising them an additional 5 big blinds right there. It's only going to cost them 5 more to see the flop. Now, here's the thing. They have a stack of 100 big blinds. They just called 7. The stack behind, the stack behind is 93 big blinds, right? You guys have heard me talk about implied odds and set mining. You can call to set mine with 20x implied odds. That means 20 times the stack size behind. You can mathematically just find a call with 20 times the size. Well, here's the thing. The implied odds right now, if you just make it 5 more big blinds, there's 93 behind. The implied odds are actually 93 divided by 5, 18.6. Super close to that 20x. Some coaches tell you you can set mine at 15 times implied odds. I say 20 just to get you to call less often because calling is often losing poker, right? But look at that. Implied odd is 18.6. That means they can call you mathematically in their mind. They're okay to call your 5 big blind raise with any pocket pair, 7-6 suited, Jack-10 suited, Ace-5 suited, anything that's speculative. They think they got the right to call you. Of course, they can call, but you want to make it as costly as possible. You want to convince them to fold. When you only make it 5 more when they open raise 2, that's not convincing enough. So some of you might be saying, Sky, I've seen plenty of 3-bet bluffs at 7 or 8 big blinds, right? And that's totally fine to make it that small. But here's the thing. I'm imagining you're watching this podcast right now. You're not fully comfortable with 3-bet bluffing just yet. Don't get tricky with bet sizes. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS principle in action here, right? Just make it between 9 to 12 big blinds every single time until you get comfortable with 3-bet bluffing. Then start experimenting with sizes. Go to 7 or 8 big blinds. Go up to 13 or 14 big blinds. Experiment with those later. 9 to 12 for right now. Now that we've given you all the details about 3-bet bluffing and when to pull the trigger and what size to make it, let's talk about the easy way of actually becoming a 3-bet bluffer. First, I want you to start smart. Start on the button, the best position. If you're 3-bet bluffing from the button, you always have position. If they call you, if they 4-bet you and you decide to call for whatever reason, you have position through the rest of the hand. This is where you begin turning yourself into a 3-bet bluffer. Here's what you're going to do. When you play your focus sessions, or when you play your sessions and you're trying to turn yourself into a 3-bet bluffer, at every chance to 3-bet, on the button, remember, you're on the button. Doesn't matter what you're dealt. 9-4 suited, Jack-4 offsuit. Every time, count the aspects in place. Like I said, even 9 deuce off or Jack-4 suited. Let's look at 2 hands real quick. The first hand I want to look at is a 9 deuce offsuit hand. So you can see in this hand, we have 9 deuce offsuit on the button. Villain 1 open raised in the cutoff to 3 big blinds. He actually has 114 behind. We have 111 behind right now. Plenty small, or a standard size, but plenty big enough stack behind. Let's count the number of aspects. First, we're on the button, so we're in position. We don't have a suited ace, so we don't have that one. Now, this he's a loose aggressive player. I can almost guarantee his raise first in the cutoff, it only says 14%, but it's 2 out of 14 opportunities, kind of a small sample. His raise first in the MP is 31. In the EP, he's 21. Yeah, maybe historically, his actual cutoff raise first in percentage isn't greater than 20, but yeah, he is the kind of player that does. So we have a big raise first in. He doesn't fold to 3-bets. It's only 0% out of 2, but he does fold to C-bets, 1 out of 1 right there. So we have 3 things going for us out of 6. It's up to you whether or not you would want to take this opportunity to 3-bet bluff the player. As you can see in this hand, I ended up folding. I didn't do it right here, but I could have with 3 out of the 6 in place. Let's take a look at another hand. This one is a Jack-4 suited. Villain 3 open raises to 2.8. He has 270 big blinds behind. We have 114 big blinds as well. Let's count the aspects, right? It's folded. The cutoff folds. This guy open raised from the MP. We're on the button with Jack-4 suited, so we're in position. We don't have a suited ace, but it is a small raise size at 2.8 big blinds with a big stack. That's the second aspect. He raises first in. Guaranteed. He raised first in 29% total. He's a 24-20 player. So far in the MP, he's raising first in 31%, 11 out of 35. He's got a wide enough range right here. He folds 67% versus 3 bets, 4 out of 6. Loving that. That's 4 aspects in place. He also folds to flop c-bets 67% or 2 out of 3. That's 5 out of the 6. If I were paying attention when this hand happened, this is a mandatory 3-bet bluff right now. Even with my Jack 4 suited. Stick it to him. 3-bet bluff. Put him to the test. He folds a lot to c-bets. In case he calls, you have another way to win, right? I should have 3-bet. Now I didn't. Now, one of the things, what often happens when you're dealt the Jack 4 suited in any position, the 9 deuce offsuit, as soon as you see that hand, you often click that auto fold button in the software and you just ignore the table. You don't even think about it anymore, right? What I want you to do when you're focusing on button 3-bet bluffing, every opportunity, do not auto click fold right here. Don't do it. Wait for your opportunity. The EP folds. The MP villain 3 opens. Oh, the cutoff villain folds. Great, it's my opportunity to 3-bet. Should I do it? Count the aspects, and when you have 5 or 6 in place, force yourself to do it, especially, like I said, that big stack and a small bet size right there. So that's how you do it. You start on the button. Then, once you count up the number of aspects, before you click fold, count those up, and then fold, call, or 3-bet bluff as you feel is the proper play. When you're comfortable doing this on the button, and it'll take maybe a few sessions going through and just counting the aspects over and over, pulling the trigger sometimes, not pulling it other times, when you become comfortable with the process of 3-betting, now do it in the cutoff. Those same steps when it's your opportunity to 3-bet. Before you click fold, even with 9 deuce off or Jack 4 suited, count the aspects and then make your decision. And then after the cutoff, go to the MP, then the small blind, and then the big blind. Now, for some of you, maybe one of the reasons you don't currently 3-bet is because the money that you have at risk, maybe it kind of hurts you. Maybe you're underrolled for the stakes you play, or you're just kind of like results oriented and you hate losing. Whatever the aspect is of losing money that's preventing you from 3-betting, I want you to drop down in stakes to focus on 3-bet bluffing, get comfortable at that lower stake. For example, maybe you're a 25 NL player. When you 3-bet to 9 big blinds, that costs $2.25 in terms of dollars, right? Oh, that's this is one of the reasons too, and let me show you that Jack 4 suited hand again. You can see when I play and when I review hands, I look at big blinds. I don't look at dollars. It helps me to avoid results orientation. It helps me to avoid the feeling of, oh, I'm putting $2.25 at risk. Not that I have that, but if I had it, which I did back in the day before I really started playing 225 or 25 NL a lot, right? $2.25 at risk for one bet, that felt bad at the time. But eventually you get used to it. So let's imagine at 25 NL, you hate having 225 at risk for a 3-bet bluff to 9 big blinds. Drop down to 10 NL. Now, that 9 big blind risk, it's only 90 cents. That's less than 4 big blinds at the 25 NL that you're currently playing. It might be so much easier for you to commit those aggressive 3-bet bluffing chips at the lower stake. Once you become comfortable with just making that play at that 9, 10, 11, 12 big blind size, then go back up to your normal stakes and then now force yourself to make that same exact sizing, put those chips at risk. I guarantee you're going to be so much more comfortable when it comes to 3-bet bluffing. Now, your action step. I want you to take action to turn yourself into a 3-bet bluffer. First, play with a 3-bet bluffing focus. So if you're normally a 4-tabler, just play 1 or 2 tables, but focus on those 3-bet bluffing opportunities. Count the aspects every single time. Do what we discussed throughout the podcast so far. On day 1 of your 3-bet bluffing focus, strive or make it a goal of 5-button 3-bet bluff. So you're only doing this on the button. You can, of course, do it in any position. Totally up to you. But strive for 5-button 3-bet bluffs on day 1. Day 2, 5-button plus 3 cutoff 3-bet bluffs. So that's 8 3-bet bluffs total. Currently, you might be the kind of player that has 0 3-bet bluffs in any given situation or any given day, or maybe 1 or 2 3-bet bluffs. You're going to be striving for 8 on day 2, right? On day 3, 5-button and 5 cutoff. And hey, here's a great thing, right? On day 3, you're striving for 5 and 5. Let's say a great 6th opportunity comes up on the button. Awesome, take it. Like, I'm not telling you to stop at 5. The goal is to hit 5 in the button, 5 on the cutoff in day 3. And then day 4, 5 button, 5 cutoff, and finally 1 in the small blind, or maybe the MP as well. Start working in other positions. But this is how you're going to gradually get comfortable with 3-bet bluffing in the best positions first, and then in the more difficult positions. Alrighty, thank you so much for listening to the podcast episode or watching on YouTube. I appreciate those eyeballs, especially if you're on YouTube. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel down below too. And of course, in the description down below, or for those listening on the podcast, you can get my Find More 3Bet Bluffs free PDF. Just go to smartpokerstudy.com/more 3bet bluffs, or link in the description down below. Page 1 gives you a ton of information about pulling the trigger on your 3bet bluffs. Starting on page 2, we've got a 20-question quiz to test your 3bet bluffing knowledge. Before you watch another video, please subscribe to my channel. And until next time, take action both on and off the felt to become the player that you want to be.